Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In this tutorial we're going to look at the P namespace, which is nowhere near as intimidating as it sounds. So I've got this little program and I've just got an address bean and a person bean in it. And let's go to the main program now. And in fact what I'll do, I'll edit the XML first. I want to create another address bean just as an example here. So I'm just going to copy the existing one here in the source view and paste it in and change this to address 2, let's say. Change the ID to address 2. And then in the app, in the main program, I can then get that out and display it. So let's say address 2 equals cast to address, and then I'll use the context get bean, and I'll get the bean with the ID address 2. And then finally I'll just do a system.out.println and display the address 2 bean. So let's just run that and check it works, and it does. So here, this is our address 2 bean here. Now what the P namespace is just a more succinct way, an alternative way of setting properties on your beans. So if we go to the beans.xml here, at the moment I'm setting the properties of the address through constructor arguments, but I'd like to set them as if they're actually properties through like set methods. So I'll go to address.java here, and I'll give it a default constructor. So public address, and since we've got a default constructor now, if I were to get rid of the constructor arguments in the XML for this address bean and run the program, it should still work. But now we've got street and postcode set to null. Now if I go to address.java, and at the bottom here, if I go to right click and go to source, generate getters and setters, let's try that again. So right click, source, generate getters and setters. And I only really need the setters actually, but I'll tick both and click OK. So we've got get and set methods now for our properties. Now I could, of course, use properties like this, for example, in my address bean to set those properties. But another way of doing it is to use this P namespace, which is sometimes it's just an alternative, and perhaps sometimes nicer if you've got a lot of properties to set, because it reduces typing. So I'm going to go to the namespaces tab here in this view, the Spring IDE Eclipse plugin view of the beans.xml file. Click the namespaces tab, and I'm going to tick P here and just save that. And then if I look at the source, you'll see the difference it's made is it's added a XML namespace declaration to the beans tag in the XML. So it now says here XML NS, XML namespace, :P equals, and then http www.springframework.org/schema/P. And that allows us to use some P attributes. So what I can do is, in address here, in the tag, I can add attributes that begin with P:. So I can say P:, and street, because that's a property of my address bean, equals, and let's set it to 23, what should we call it, Vineyard Lane, in quotes, and then I'll set the postcode in the same way. So P:, postcode equals, and in double quotes again, let's say 6789. And then if I run that, we see that we've set the name and the postcode through this syntax. So all this is here is just an alternative syntax to using property tags, and it is a little bit more succinct, especially if you habitually define your property tags by having a value tag nested within them instead of specifying the values as attributes like I usually do. then this is much more succinct. So just an alternative, and you can even mix and match if you want, but don't define a property, don't try to set a property with both the P syntax and the property syntax, because you just get an error then. But you can happily set some one way and others another, but probably best to stick to one method for the sake of coherence and elegance. So that's it for this tutorial, and until next time, happy coding.